Okay, so picture this. You're a historian, right? You've written books on World War II aviation. You feel like you got a pretty good handle on things.
You know, the planes, the units, the big names.
Exactly. And then one day, someone just hands you this old manila folder. Pinned to the front is this little note, and the handwriting is, well, it's shaky.
Right.
And all it says is, Nevin Filby, pilot Spitfires, Lancasters.
Wow. Okay, so right away, that's either a huge red flag.
A huge red flag.
Or you've just stumbled on a complete gold mine.
Because if you know anything about the RAF in the 40s, that combination, Spitfires and Lancasters, it's like saying someone was, I don't know, a quarterback in the NFL and also the lead dancer for the Royal Ballet.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. You have to understand, you were siloed. You were a fighter pilot in a Spitfire, single engine, dogfighting, all that. Or you were a bomber driver, a heavy bomber driver in a Lancaster, 4 engines, 7-man crew, flying at night, the training, the mindset, they're all completely different.
So to fly both, you'd have to be some kind of ace of aces, a total superhero.
Oh, pretty much.
So of course the author thinks, okay, I have to meet this man, I have to solve the mystery of the impossible pilot. He calls him up, drives out to his house, and here's the twist.
It's not true.
The note was wrong. Completely wrong. It was just a well-intentioned mistake from a relative who, didn't know a Spitfire from a Lancaster. Nevin Filby never flew either of them.
So the whole superhero myth it evaporates. Poof.
It pops, yeah.
Yeah.
But, and this is why we're doing this deep dive, what's left when that balloon pops is, I think, so much more interesting, because Nevin Filby flew the B-25 Mitchell.
A medium bomber.
Yeah.
A totally different kind of war.
And his story isn't about being a superhero. It's a study in, I want to call it, reluctant courage.
I like that. That's a great way to frame it. Because we always get the stiff upper lip version of these stories, don't we? Yeah. The king and country narrative. But the sources we have on Nevin, his own writings, they show a man who was, frankly, terrified. A man who hated those bland history books and survived by, well, the skin of his teeth.
So let's get into it. Before he was dodging flak over Normandy, Nevin Filby was in Grenfell, New South Wales, fighting a very, very different kind of war.
A war against his mother's piano.
Yes. This is one of the best parts of his backstory.
It's so relatable. He was not, a born warrior. His mother was desperate for the Filby family to be musical. She wanted high culture wafting out of their windows.
And the sources mention this piano, a very specific one.
Oh yeah, a big fancy German upright. And she didn't just buy it, she weaponized it. She put it right next to his bedroom door.
You mean like blocking the way?
You literally couldn't leave his room without having to physically squeeze past this monument to his musical failure.
That is some serious parental pressure.
And the poor kid, he was, by his own admission, just hopeless. Absolutely no talent for it. And it wasn't just the piano. He tried the trumpet.
He said it bruised his lips.
Bruised his lips. Then there was the banjo.
Oh, the banjo story is heartbreakingly funny. He struggles with it for ages.
For ages. And then his son, his young son, picks it up and is playing old Joe Clark perfectly in about 3 minutes.
Ouch.
He also tried writing novels, film scripts. Nothing stuck. So you've got this young guy who feels like a bit of a failure, and then the war breaks out.
And you'd think this is his moment for glory.
But no. His reasons for enlisting were just brutally pragmatic. He basically said, well, I can shoot, I'm strong, and I can probably knock over a few Japs.
It wasn't about patriotism.
Not at all. It was about being useful, because he sure wasn't going to be a pianist.
He starts out just sitting under an anti-aircraft gun at Balmoral Beach in Sydney.
Hated it. Felt totally useless. A neighbor says, hey, why don't you become a pilot? And this is where it gets really dark.
Because Nevin had a phobia of flying. A very real, very specific trauma.
We have to talk about the Nevin incident. It's horrific, but it explains everything.
He was 16. A gypsy moth biplane came to his town for a show.
And he was actually excited about it. He's going to go for a ride the next day. But he's watching from the ground, and the top wing, it just fails, folds up in midair.
And the plane goes straight into the main street of the town.
Nevin rides his bike over to the crash site.
Yeah.
And he sees this scene. A bystander is kicking a dog that had grabbed a piece of meat from the wreckage.
Oh, God.
And Nevin, he's a kid. He thinks it's from a cow or something. But the man turns to him and says, that's not a cow, son. That's the pilot.
I can't even imagine.
He threw up right there. He said later, it's a wonder I ever flew at all. And that trauma, it doesn't stop there.
It happened again.
Unbelievably, yes. During his training in Canada, in New Brunswick, he's on the tarmac, And he watches a Lockheed Ventura lose an engine on takeoff. It cartwheels and bursts into flames.
And his description of it in his own notes. It's chilling.
He said he could see the men trapped in the nose, and as the fire grew, he watched them shrink from 6 feet to 3 feet.
And he vomited again.
He vomited again.
And yet, he kept going. He finished his training. That's what you mean by reluctant courage. He wasn't fearless. He knew exactly what could happen in graphic detail, and he got in the cockpit anyway.
Exactly. Courage isn't not being afraid, it's managing absolute terror. And he ends up not in Bomber Command with the Lancasters, but in the 2nd Tactical Air Force, the 2TAF.
We should probably distinguish that for people. What's the difference?
Okay, so Bomber Command was the big strategic force. Heavy bombers, flying high, usually at night, carpet bombing cities.
Impersonal in a way.
Very, until the night fighters show up. The 2TAF was the opposite. Their nickname was the Firemen.
The Firemen! I like that. It implies chaos.
It was the Dial and Air Raid Squad. The Army gets stuck at a bridge they call the Firemen. They flew medium bombers like Nevin's Mitchell, low and in broad daylight.
Which means the Germans can see you coming.
Plain as day. Nevin put it best. He said, "We could bomb accurately, but we made ourselves a bloody easy target."
And the man leading this group of easy targets was a character straight out of a comic book, Basil Embry.
Oh, Embry is a legend. Total boy's own adventure hero. Shot down over Dunkirk in '39, captured, escapes.
And the sign. I love the story about the sign.
It's incredible. He's hiding from a German patrol. He rolls down this bank, looks up, and there's a road sign that says, Embry, 3 kilometers.
He can't make that up.
He took it as an omen, and he made it all the way back to England. Won the DSO 4 times.
And he used to fly missions under a fake name, right? Wing Commander Smith.
Yep. An Air Vice Marshal wasn't supposed to be flying combat missions, but he couldn't stand being behind a desk. He wanted to be with his men.
It's an interesting contrast. You have Embry, the maverick leader, and Nevin, the blunt, pragmatic Australian who hates the bland version of war.
But they both share that kind of disdain for the rules, for the paperwork. Funnily enough, Embry moved to Western Australia after the war to be a sheep farmer. I think he and Nevin would have gotten along perfectly.
So let's get back to that interview. The author is at Nevin's house at his dining table, which is basically his office. Just piles of paper everywhere. And Nevin looks him in the eye and says his last book was rather bland.
You've got to love the honesty. He wasn't being rude, he was being precise. He felt that history books missed the reality of it. They missed the structural terror of just keeping those planes in the air.
And he had proof. He pulls out his own notes. He talks about the wing spar.
This is just terrifying. On his 3rd mission, a German shell slices right through the main starboard wing spar.
And the spar is the spine of the wing, basically.
It's the whole thing. If it goes, the wing folds up just like that gypsy moth he saw as a kid. And his wing is wobbling so much he's thinking about bailing out. He even drew a sketch of the damage, a huge chunk bitten out of the aluminum.
But he gets it home.
He flies it home by making no sudden moves, just babying this broken plane back across the channel.
And then, because this is Nevin Filby's life, it happens again. A week later.
The other wing spar. And the elevator control. 2 catastrophic failures in a week. That's the stuff Nevin said was missing from the bland books. The books just say, mission complete.
They don't say, and the pilot spent an hour praying his wing didn't fall off.
Exactly. But the scariest moment for him, the one that actually left a mark, wasn't a structural failure, it was the helmet.
Right. The American gear.
He hated it. The B-25s came with these heavy steel helmets and flak jackets. Nevin thought they were ridiculous and refused to wear them.
I can kind of see his point. It's hot, it's cramped.
But on one mission, his navigator, Keith, just loses it with him. Screams at him, "For God's sakes, Chief, put the bloody thing on."
And for once, Nevin listens.
He did, probably just to shut Keith up. Thank God he did. A little while later, a piece of hot steel about the size of your thumb tears through the windscreen.
It hits him.
Hits him square in the temple. Right on the steel helmet.
Without it.
He'd be dead. Instantly. It left a permanent dent in his temple. He showed it to the author, and he was very clear. Thank God for Keith.
He was so focused on documenting the feeling of it all, wasn't he? The fear.
He was. He wanted people to know what it felt like to fly into what he called puffs of bursting blackness with a dark red heart.
That phrase, a dark red heart. It means you're close enough to see the fire inside the smoke.
Chilling. And he talked about the weird disconnect. He's gripping the controls, full of adrenaline, and he can hear the bomb aimer's infuriatingly calm voice in his ears.
Just calling out corrections. Left, left, steady.
While Nevin's watching tracer fire that looks like a string of fireworks, knowing that for everyone he could see, there were 9 he couldn't.
Which brings us to Columbells, June 22, 1944. The Maelstrom.
Yeah, this mission seems to be the one that really defined the 2TAF experience for him. The 51st Highland Division, the Scots, they were bogged down in Caen in this horrible street-to-street fighting at a steelworks.
And they needed air support, but it was a really tricky target, right on the edge of the city.
And their own troops were only about 1,000 yards away. You miss short, you hit your own men, you miss long, you hit civilians.
So Nevin's crew goes in for their first run, and they can't see the target. Too much smoke.
So they can't drop. The safe thing to do would be to go home.
But they don't. They make the decision to go around for a second run.
Which is basically a suicide mission. The Germans on the ground have had a good look at you. They know your speed, your altitude, your direction. They are waiting for you.
And the numbers are just staggering what they flew back into.
70 88mm guns and 10 120mm guns, all packed into an area the size of 2 city blocks.
That's not an anti-aircraft defense. That's a solid wall of steel.
It is. Nevin said the flak was so thick, so dark from the smoke, they almost had to turn on their landing lights. He called it a colorful, thick maelstrom.
And his quote is just so understated. We gritted our teeth a little bit harder.
And flew into the colorful, thick maelstrom. They hit the target. The Scots took the steelworks. But Nevin said something afterwards that's really telling.
What was that?
He said, "We never got the credit for that we deserve."
And that gets right back to his problem with the bland history books. The book says, 2TAF provided support at Caen. One sentence.
But that one sentence completely hides the reality of flying your bomber through a cloud of exploding metal so thick it turns day into night, all with a dent in your temple and the memory of burning men in your mind.
It just totally reframes what we think of as courage. It's not about not having fear. It's about being able to do your job while you are absolutely terrified.
And while carrying all that trauma with you, this is the kid who threw up at a crash site. He wasn't numb to it. He felt every single moment.
So what's the takeaway here for us, for you listening?
I think it's a reminder to always look past the summary. When you read history, you get the bland version. The objective was taken. But we need to remember the Nevin Filbys, the individuals inside that history. The ones who couldn't play the piano, who kept their own notes on a messy dining table.
The real history is in the details. It's in the dent in the helmet.
It is. And it makes you think. If you have a veteran in your family or just an older relative, maybe you should ask them about the bland parts of their stories.
Ask them to check their notes.
Exactly. Because the real story, the one with the dark red heart, is probably just sitting there waiting for someone to ask.
A powerful thought to end on. That's it for this deep dive into the reluctant courage of Nevin Filby.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.